Hello again, and welcome to season 2. I am your host, Amateur Overlord, bringing you some daily interesting topics, thoughts, feelings, and a variety of things that we can all perhaps get uh, different perspectives on. Today's topic for the opening of season 2, I had hoped to have a guest here. I know I keep saying that, keep saying, oh, there's going to be people that, people are busy, people don't have the flexibility in their schedules that I have. So I can always do this and they can't always. I'm gonna turn this. I got some ambient noise and I'm just gonna turn it down a little bit. Just gonna turn it down. There we go. It's a little bit more than ambient when it's all up in your earball. What the hell's an earball? Yeah. So today's topic is gonna be a little bit deep, but I think it needs to be considered based on a number of things that have popped up in the news cycle of late. And I'm going to touch on this more than once, obviously, but today's topic is going to be racism. Now, the dictionary defines racism as prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that our own race is superior. And racism, like a lot of the things that create difficulty for people in life, is a very false construct because ultimately, we're all of the same race. We're all human beings. And I've said this numerous times that racism being what it is, if aliens came down, and this is just my own personal thoughts, if aliens came down and they attacked human beings, we would forget about racism within seconds because it'd just be something new to hate. It'd just be like, it's us against them, aliens against humans. And everyone would band together because, it'd be humans against aliens and they could draw up lines and la da da da. I honestly believe that if that ever happened, racism would disappear overnight. Personal thoughts. Racism as a whole, we see how destructive and divisive it's been throughout the earth. The class system or caste system in places like India and parts of the East. You could talk about the caste system being in place in South Africa had a type of caste system during apartheid whereby people were white, black, colored, and I think there were some subgroups and subcategories to that. And that sometimes divided families even, just on your skin tone or whether or not a pencil would fall through your hair. Just really stupid things. I'm going to talk about the United States because that's where I grew up and that's what I know about predominantly. Racism in the United States is a unique formula, and everywhere you find racism, it's usually unique, although at its root, it's the same. In my opinion, racism stems from, obviously, like the definition says, a belief of superiority, but also a fear. And that fear is usually the sharing of resources. Those in power, which are, for the most part, in most places where you find racism, or I have personally found racism, are going to be obviously white people. And usually it's that they don't want to share the resources that they have acquired evenly. Even if those resources were obtained through the exploitation of someone else, they still don't want to share those resources evenly. It's like, I've got all the stuff and I don't care how I got it, I'm not sharing. In the belief that if I share, I get weaker. Whereas we know that if you look at humanity as like a team, you're only as strong as your weakest link on a team. And humanity, we all share the same amount of resources on the planet, or not that we all share the same amount. It's all we only have a finite amount of resources. And the more evenly distributed those resources are, it's better for everyone. Who's to say that, again, this is just me speculating, that there's somewhere in a brown person's country, the person who could have created cancer could have lived and died in numerous times, but they never had the resources available to their communities for them to get the education that they needed and to create that cure. Like, there's no way for me, people could say, oh, that's just you speculating, but there's no way for you to prove me wrong either. Who's to say, when the resources are evenly distributed, then everyone has a fair and equal shot at being successful, and that is the best possible thing for humanity. When I think about racism in the United States, whiteness is a fairly recent invention. Initially, people were talked about as being from certain cultural backgrounds. Like even in the United States, people were the most respected and the highest levels of society were people from Britain, Scotland, German, and basically anyone from those more predominantly Protestant white areas. They were considered the top of society, and they bought the French even. Well, not so much the French, but that's more of a religious thing. It was a whole Catholic Protestant thing. And as time progressed, they allowed others into the group, which were the French, the Italians, which came very late because for many years they kept the Italians out of the white club. And the white club was a way to separate the classes again, because even in the areas where many of us grew up, in urban areas, like if you grow up with white kids in urban areas, they're just like everybody else, which is to be expected. They're not racist. They're easygoing individuals, easy to get along with. They have a more balanced view of the world. Like the guys I work with, a lot of them come from areas that are culturally diverse areas, and they're just more easygoing. And the ones that don't come from culturally diverse areas, you can easily spot them, especially in the workplace. They'll kind of separate themselves out, or they're unlikely to share in jokes or activities outside of work that don't stick to a specific set of preferences that they have. And it's really kind of sad because growing up in a culturally diverse environment, you get to enjoy another person's culture. And I say enjoy, meaning like I grew up around people that were Afghan, Filipino, and Mexican. Those are predominantly large cultures in my area, and I loved it. I loved to go, like I used to do deliveries. I used to stop over at one of the dealerships and sit with the Afghan dudes if I had a break or two, break for a couple minutes, and they'd give me tea. They'd share that oval-shaped bread with me. I forget what it's called, and we'll just talk. And I remember when after September 11th, dude had a sign up saying no political conversations. Because we did used to talk about everything, but he put up a sign saying no political conversations. I remember on my route also, this is back when I was, like I said, delivery driver, the Filipino body shop, they'd give me lumpia, they'd teach me little bits of Tagalog. The Philippines has many languages. Tagalog and Ilocano are probably the two largest that people know about anyway. And we talk, and then you can see like different things in people's cultures that bind them together, like because the Philippines had been imperialized by the Spanish. Obviously, a lot of Filipinos have Spanish names, last names, and a lot of Tagalog has like bits of Spanish in it, and same thing with Vietnamese and the French, things like that. Like you get to see how people's cultures have merged, even if it was unwillingly, and it adds to the beauty of everything. But as far as the whole class system, I'm going off topic here. It's just I woke up, I didn't get it. Basically, I got in late last night, and I'm a bit tired, and I'm doing this off the cuff. Yeah, that's my excuse for today. But as far as the White Club goes, if you watch documentaries or YouTube videos on Tim Wise, he really goes into this. Tim Wise is a great man. If you can get any of his literature or watch some of his videos, he breaks down racism more eloquently than I ever could. But as far as the White Club goes, it was a way to separate out low-class blacks and low-class whites. And that low class meaning that they didn't have funds or land or anything, and make the whites that didn't have money feel like they could still have something over their counterparts. Because what was happening is the lower levels or lower rungs of society were banding together, and this caused a great worry to the upper classes, because there were more of the lower classes, and if they banded together and decided they didn't like the way things were going, it could have got really, really, really interesting for the upper classes. So they invented whiteness to say, hey, look, you might not have our money, but you still get to be part of the club. Like, you don't get to play golf at the country club, but you get to make sure that the black people can't come in. and they made a lot of the lower class white people security, slave catchers, police officers, and it still happens. It still happens. It's like that Dave Chappelle joke where he said he's at the voting booth. I don't know if this is true or not, but the joke is hilarious. He says he's there with these poor white people, and you can hear them in the voting booth talking like, "Oh, Donald Trump, he's gonna fix everything." And Chappelle's like, "No, he's not. He works for me. I'm rich. He doesn't work for you. He's smart in that he's tricked you into thinking that he has." But I'm paraphrasing his joke. But if you watch his if you have Netflix, watch it. Dave Chappelle beautifully, eloquently explains exactly what happens in the class system and how it really works, and how racism was mixed into the class system to control everyone's mind. So, we've crossed over the 10-minute mark. Well, this is episode 1 of season 2. I'm sorry for it not being up to par in my opinion already. I can feel myself. I know I'm just tired. I wanted to go back to bed. It's the middle of the day too, but Anyway, I thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to keep dropping content every day, and I am going to get a guest, at least one, sooner or later. I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a great day. Please subscribe and do the little bell icon thingy too, so you know when I'm dropping these. Mad love, and I will see you tomorrow.